They've spent
Welcome to the 4D Chess Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble. Today on the show, we will discuss the war that Trump is in. I know you guys think that you voted for a president that isn't going to fight any wars, but he is fighting one, and I will prove it to you. We will also go into a little more depth on the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. There's an angle of it that you forget about that goes back to the same premise I say on this show every freaking time, that the bankers are the enemy. And Trump is speaking live right now. I'm sort of monitoring it both. I can't, for copyright reasons, put it on the TV behind me or stream it to you live. However, he did speak about the war that we are about to do on this show. He started talking about it 5 minutes before we got on it. But anyway, thanks for joining me today. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble. Let's play chess today. That's right. Welcome back to the show. Gonna hit our little recording there. Welcome to the 4D Chess Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble. We are going to discuss the British today. I don't think we ever got free from the British. I have so much evidence that would support this conclusion. In fact, you're watching it happen live time with our debt and everything else. We are fighting these forces, and the same forces may be at the top of the Epstein list. That is what we are doing, children. That is what we are doing today. Trump just handled this clip. I would like to show it to you. It's quite interesting. This is a PR tactic. Where we go. Got my new little buttons. Can I show you this? And boom.
about Jeffrey Epstein. This guy's been talked about.
Here's the question. So you got a reporter that asked the question. We'll get into the British stuff here in a second, but that I just found this. It just happened live. It's sort of a breaking news moment.
Sure. If I
Could I just interrupt for
Sure.
a second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Deflect.
This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking. We have Texas. We have this. We have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
We'll leave it at that. But that is deflection. Of course, she goes in to say that it's normal for a minute of security footage to be missing. Again, guys, we are not going to talk about it in depth in that angle, because here on this show, we look at big pictures and we stay logically consistent. When I am not logically consistent, I want you to call me out. Message me, give us a follow on 4D Chess on X. You can find it right here. There we go. Home. You can see we are live streaming on X. We're live streaming on YouTube. We're live streaming on Rumble and Locals. Give us a follow on X. That is where you will find me most of the time during the day. We are sort of on a sabbatical until mid to late August. So we got a lot of free time to try to build this thing up. However, we look at big pictures and stay logically consistent. What was the Epstein list for? That's it. Just ask the question. What was the Epstein list for? I could find you 8,000 posts. 8,000 posts every hour on the Epstein list right now. There's only a handful, less than 10, that have this angle right. It is used for blackmail. That's why it was made. It was made to control people. Okay? Now, is Trump at the top? This is a question we can ask. We should not be debating, are they going to get prosecuted? Because they're not going to get prosecuted. We should not be debating, is Bill Clinton on there? Because he is. Royalty. Prince Andrew's probably on there. We don't need, nobody cares, right? I care about the victims. I want them to get justice, of course, but it's not going to happen. That's not the world we live in. And so we're not going to talk about it on this show. I'm not going to talk about how Dan Bongino was saying this before. I love his show too. One of the reasons I'm even doing this show is because I thought, Dan Bongino's show was so cool. I was like, I could do that. As it comes out, my bandwidth can't do that. I've had Spectrum guys out of my house all morning. I've had to take my PC in. Like I'm figuring out lighting and camera angles. See? It's not as easy as it looks. But Dan Bongino caused me to do this show. One of the many. Glenn Beck. I love the OGs. Rush Limbaugh, the super OG. But the world that we live in accepts it for what it is. This is an intelligence operation that used blackmail to control people. And there's two major parts. There is the money part. It's always the money. And then there is the sex part. The sex part was the one that they used to control you and your money. It's that simple. It is that simple. And the bankers are involved. That's when it starts to get up into the top. When you start talking about the bankers, you start talking about the Rothschilds, you start talking about the international banking cabal, mix in a little royalty and everything else. I will show you a clip today of Vladimir Putin talking about the people that we're talking about. And you're never going to know. You're never going to know, because I think this goes all the way back to 1776. This is not politics. This is a high stakes chess match for America's future. And we are absolutely on the brink. Let's not sugarcoat this. With the debt the way it is, with who Trump is fighting, which we can't even put a name to it, we're just going to call it nefarious forces. Donald Trump is playing a bold game. And this is why I get so frustrated when people hate on Trump and they're like, this man is so evil. That's how I know you're on like level 1, right? You are in the same room as the red pill, but you have turned your back to it and you've been drinking the propaganda Kool-Aid. If you're blaming Trump for weather cuts and blaming Trump for immigration policies, that is such the distraction. There is a game being played between the banking elites that hate America, that just want to destroy it and move on to their next country to destroy because patterned history shows it. And then there is Trump trying to save America. And once you realize this, then you let all the other stuff go. I don't care if he takes your rights. I don't care if he arrests the wrong people and deports them to third world countries, because we're not going to have a country if he can't win this war. Let's prioritize a little bit, right? Let's prioritize. Let's focus on the main task. not who raped little girls and boys, because you're not going to get those answers. In fact, I would say releasing that now would probably hurt the country even further. Hold off on it. Let Trump use it as a blackmail list, because that's exactly what it is. Some people know who's on it. Let them use it for what it was intended for. Now, the scary part is if the elites still have it, they can be blackmailing people like Bongino and Patel, and then hopefully not Donald Trump. I really don't think they're blackmailing Donald Trump, because they would have released it already if that was the case. But the globalist is who we need to fight. I'm not saying it's good. There's victims waiting for justice. You've got to let them get their justice. But that time is not right now. You can't. The fight is too big. You got countries meeting in Brazil this week to try to destroy the American dollar, which would destroy the economy and therefore destroy America. That's where you need to be focused on. The global, it's Wall Street, the Fed. Jerome Powell is absolutely blatantly sabotaging America right in front of everybody. It's not even in the news. London's banking elite, their deep state allies, they weaponize debt. They use war. And Elon Musk, his tantrums are now trying to sabotage America. And they're going to use that. That's the playbook. This is the old British imperialist system. It is tried and true. Get a country into some wars, give them a bunch of debt, watch them collapse over time. They actually did it to their own country. It's not even England anymore. That's just sort of where they're based. They do not believe in national sovereignty. Right? If Trump fails, we are looking at frozen bank accounts, skyrocketing poverty and chaos. Let's break it down and look at all the political moves that happen in this. America is buried under $35 trillion in debt. Okay? It's going up every 100 days by $1 trillion. That is more than the entire economy earns in a year. Gross domestic product, this is known as GDP for you newbies, that's like the country's paycheck. And Trump is still going live over here. It's like the country's paycheck. Every car, every burger, all the apps, all the stuff, like it adds up. Okay? Owing more than that is like maxing out your credit card. So we owe more than we make. Like this is a problem. If you're making $10 a day, but you're spending 11, it depends on your savings. And right now we don't have any savings. There's no way to pay it back. History is a brutal teacher, right? Argentina borrowed big. Right? They printed money like confetti, and they hit hyperinflation so bad that prices, they doubled in 1989. Greece was crushed by debt as well, and with the cuts, they made them worse. The globalists, that's Wall Street, the City of London, Democrats, they are pushing debt crisis. That's what they want. They demand that we slam the debt ceiling and we cut the entitlements. Why do you think they want to cut the entitlements? That's more money for them. Right? They want to cut Medicare, cut Social Security, and defense to stay, quote, fiscally responsible. It's a trap, and it's designed to keep America broke and dependent on their speculative scams. Okay? Trump's political strategy, Trump is betting on growth, no cuts. He's betting on growth. This is why the bill was still going to raise we want to raise the debt ceiling. He's not going to change the way it works. He's just going to bet on growth. And his $3 trillion infrastructure bill passed on July 3rd, that pours cash into factories, roads, and bridges to boost jobs and revenue. That's a direct play to win over Rust Belt voters for future Republican parties, even though he doesn't have to run again. And it's designed to flip corporate skeptics like Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, who contributed or said he was or pledged to donate a lot building and manufacturing, and even agreed to go into the no interest on the car loans if it was American made. That is inside the big, beautiful bill. Right? And by flooding the Treasury with tariff cash, which Scott Bessent just came out and announced, I got the stats for you right here. I can give it to you. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Right there. Why does that happen? right there. So we are talking about 100 billion collected this year, 300 plus billion projected by the end of the 2025, and 2.8 trillion over 10 years. That is with the tariffs. It just announced like a while ago. Why does that not work? There you go. Learning how to do things. All right. And so he's betting on growth. The globalist counter is that they're going to push fear. Cut now or crash. The Rothschild banking system, their dynasty, mastered this angle. All right? Lend big, control with interest, and that's how you do it. They've been doing it forever. Russia kicked them out in 2006, and the West smeared Putin for it, which makes you wonder who's controlling the West. It's obviously the bankers. Okay? The Fed is in on it. The Fed is just an arm, one of the 14 arms of the Bank of International Settlements, which is the head of the snake. I've been saying it on this show. The Bank of International Settlements cannot be touched legally. You can't sue them in court. They have global sovereign immunity. Not a single person can take them for anything. They're not held accountable to anybody. Their board members are secret, all of the things. Just ask yourself why. Right? And Jerome Powell was told by European bankers on July 5th to keep the interest rates high. Therefore, he kept the interest rates high. Right? Trump is giving him nicknames like Too Late. He referenced Ed Too Tall Jones of the Dallas Cowboys, and he's referencing Jerome Powell as Too Late Powell. Right? And this is designed. This is a play. This is a tactic. It's like if I was sneaking up the left side of the football field to run, you would move your linebackers and defense over that way, right? They are not lowering rates to choke Trump's tariffs. This is a tactic. We are in a fucking battle, man. And yet and Trump is totally spot on. People are going to be like, oh, you're just denying the Epstein list. I just played you this clip. You're just denying the Epstein list. No, you're not. He's not avoiding the Epstein list. He's literally meaning what he says. Are you really asking about the Epstein list right now as this global banking elite is trying to destroy our country, and that you have the Federal Reserve countering everything that I'm trying to do financially, and you have this deep state stuff going on where they're meeting and trying to get rid of the US dollar? Like, this is serious shit. We're in the middle of a war. That's why Trump just said, are you really asking me about some videotape? Like, for real. And I personally think Trump has the tape. That's what I think. I think he's using parts of the tape. I don't think all the tape's on there. I don't think they just destroyed all the evidence. It's too powerful. It's designed to be used for blackmail and control. And I think probably somebody at the FBI, owed somebody a favor. Owed somebody a favor, and they went in there and they might have destroyed it. I think the Clintons probably had access in there, and they went in there and, told somebody to destroy the Bill Clinton sex tape or whatever. I'm speculating, but you get the point. There was hundreds of thousands of videos. That is well documented. Well documented. You have people sitting in prison right now, supposedly, because they trafficked individuals. Right? Here's the globalist scam, though. And it's a doozy, man. It's if you need $1 trillion, think about this. This is how they crash you. This happened in 1910 when a group of the most powerful men in the world met on an island called Jekyll Island, and they figured out a way to rob you of your money without you even knowing. Right? If you need $1 trillion, a lot of the stuff I got from Tom Bilyeu on his show, it's a great show, check it out. If you need $1 trillion, right? Banks don't have it. They just hit a button, right? Once they hit that button, it's there. So it's created out of nowhere, literally, right? I could show you clip after clip of people Jerome Powell even admitting they just make it up out of thin air. Okay? But what about the interest? Okay? If the interest is 5%, then you owe me $50 billion. I'm going to give you $1 trillion, but you owe me $50 billion. And how's that going to work? Well, that comes out of your taxes. It's like borrowing monopoly money and then paying back with gold. Do you understand what a scam this was? You go to the bank for a loan. they give you fucking monopoly money and you pay it back with gold. Elon Musk's American Party is raging against this, of course, and it demands an end to the money printing circus, right? Fiscally conservative, which nobody can even survive in as a political party, but they're going to try to do it. And on July 5th, we talked about it last time. Man, Trump is still going. Musk launched his American Party, but some are saying that he filed the wrong paperwork with the FEC. It was a flop, right? It was just a solo candidate form. It wasn't even a party form. Right? What's going to be Musk's political strategy with this? Well, Musk is going to play the fiscal conservative card, and he tweeted on June 30th that he'll tank Congress members who vote for debt hikes. Okay. How are you going to pay back the interest when interest is more than you're making? This is why Trump has to set up tariffs. This is why anybody who was raging against tariffs is lost their damn mind too. They're on like level 2. Kudos for knowing what a tariff is, but stupid because you're not seeing the bigger picture. Trump needs the tariffs. He needs to bring in more money than you're spending. Now, the bankers are never going to let this happen. They're going to lower the interest rates so that everybody can go borrow money more easily, and then people just get into more debt. They have to keep the debt scam going. That's why they're the worst. They are deliberately ruining economies until we go to war or until we just break apart from the inside, and then they move on to the next place on earth so that they can do the same thing while we all have to pick up the pieces. Or Argentina picked up the pieces for the last 40 years. Excuse me. When you're on live TV, you can't yawn. All right, Democrats are pushing free health care and welfare. They're racking up trillions of dollars as well. Republicans love tax cuts for the rich, which is fine. I don't care. They tax cut for everybody on the big, beautiful bill, which I'm totally down for, right? They like massive defense budgets, also in the trillions. And independents, they go back and forth, right? The GOP, their $3 trillion stimulus bill, the bipartisan $1 trillion infrastructure bill within that, signed on July 2nd, right? They're under fire for ballooning the costs. And Musk party, the American Party, calls it reckless. Right, but his austerity obsession echoes Argentina's situation. What about BRICS? You're going to hear Trump talking about BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa for the uninitiated. They launched their Rio summit the other day, and they vowed to ditch the dollar for trade. They're going to get rid of the dollar. Now, what does this even mean? The petrodollar, as they call it. This is oil traded in U.S. dollars. That is America's ace card in the hole. Right? That's like everybody needing your gift card to buy gas. That's essentially what this is. And BRICS wants their own currencies. They want to tank our power. This is the war. This is another war. This is not, I wouldn't even say this is the top notch. Right? This is BRICS. You got BRICS that we're fighting. You got the banking cabal that we're fighting. You got the deep state within our own country that we're fighting. You got the people at the top of the Epstein list, which I think is a combination of all the three that we just said. Right? What is Trump's response? Well, he's going to hit him with a tariff. You might be saying, well, what is that about? Right? He slapped a 10% tariff hike. You got to get some sleep, man, if you're going to do live shows. He slapped a 10% tariff hike on BRICS aligned nations, 25% on Japan and South Korea, and he warned 100% if they pushed for a new currency. That's his counter. Right? Tariffs are It's a voter magnet. It protects jobs in swing states like Ohio and Wisconsin. It forces trade deals. The EU talks about spiking. Well, not really. Anyway, Trump gets to paint himself as the tough negotiator in this situation if he does this. It's a middle finger to BRICS, and that's exactly what we're doing. The British imperialist system is alive and well in our country, right? I'm going to argue that we never really got away in 1776. I think we fought some people. They realized it was a big, giant mess. Man, it was so embarrassing that they just left. They left, and instead of killing their military and spending all this money across the Atlantic Ocean, I think England went back and figure out ways to hold us hostage. And I think we've been there ever since. And I think the forces that we're bumping up against, I think at the top of the Epstein list, I think at Mossad, the CIA, I think all of these organizations that have infiltrated into, right, these all of the top-notch criminals, the deep state stuff, the men in the dark suits, as they say, I think they are running the show. If you do not believe me, take a look at this clip. This is Vladimir Putin.
Одним президентом США и с другим, и с третьим.
He says, I got to read it for you. He says, I've already spoken to 3 U.S. presidents.
Понимаете, я уже общался и с одним президентом США, и с другим, и с третьим.
He says,
Президенты приходят и уходят, а политика не меняется. Знаете почему? Потому что очень сильна власть бюрократии. Вот человека избрали, он другим, и с третьим.
It says they come and go, but politics stays the same. Do you know why? Because the powerful bureaucracy. When a person is elected, they may have some ideas. Then people with briefcases arrived, well-dressed, wearing dark suits like mine. What? Then people with briefcases arrive, wearing dark suits like mine. Except for the red tie, since they wear black or blue ones. These people start explaining how things are done. And instantly, everything changes. This is what happens with every administration. Changing things is not easy, and I say this without any irony. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. This is Vladimir Putin, who's been in power for the longest time. And even he says our presidents can't do anything because the people in the suits show up and they tell you how it goes. Now, who are the people in the suits? It is of my professional opinion that the people in the suits are the people that were fucking little girls and boys on Epstein Island. They are also the people that run the banks. This is my claim. All the historical evidence points at the bankers and the elites of the British imperialist system. This is where all the evidence points to. It leads me to this. Every single time I deep dive in on this stuff, I find myself connected to the bankers, right? If you do not believe me, you can see it right here. Here's a post that I made earlier today talking about JP Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank are facing lawsuits accusing them of enabling Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking and obstruction to federal anti-trafficking laws. Let me just point this out. If I went to my bank right now and pulled out $10,000, man, that'd be nice if I had it. But if I pulled out $10,000 today, and then I went back tomorrow, and I did it again, the IRS would get a phone call. Then I would get a phone call. Hobbled, what are you doing? Why is $20,000 coming out of your account? And why doesn't that line up with your taxable income based on 2 withdrawals? Probably even the first withdrawal. You probably couldn't even get it out. It would flag something. You get some phone calls. You get some checks, all the things. These people pulled out millions. Every single bank you're looking at, high up in the international banks, ignored their own rules to allow that man to sex traffic humans for money, move it in and out of banks, and launder the money. The banks are equally as guilty. It is a huge part. They were laundering money. They were taking their cuts. They were trafficking humans, and they were making tons and tons of profit with no taxes, hiding it from all governments because they are the government. I just think some people, I'm just going to rant now. I just think some people are not aware that we are never, I got a yawn. I just don't think they don't understand the forces we're up against. You think it's just the Epstein stuff. You want people in jail. It doesn't work like that, man. It doesn't work like that. It works like that for me. If I kill somebody, I'll go to jail. But it's like another game. Right? The people that are above the law are the people that manipulate the people that make the laws. They also manipulate law enforcement. That's easy stuff. That's easy stuff. The part where they get in trouble. Why am I yawning? The part that they get in trouble for is going to be the money stuff, right? They have to hide money from people that understand money. That's where they usually get in trouble, right? This is where Biden got in trouble with like 200 something shell companies. He was just a sloppy crook, right? But this is what we're talking about. The super elites. And Biden, I wouldn't even classify Biden as a super elite. I would classify him as a sloppy wannabe gangster, right? One that went to the Ukraine and got blackmailed. Okay, but the ones that really do this well are the ones like Epstein, who can get away with any crime he wants, and then be put in prison. And I honestly don't think they killed him. I think he was taken out. That's why the video's missing, because people went in and he walked out. They didn't roll him out. I think the lights went off. He walked out. There's pictures of him in an ambulance and everything else, and I think he's somewhere else. That's what I think. You got Ghislaine Maxwell supposedly still in jail. I just don't think any of this stuff happens to these people. I think there's two separate worlds that we live in. We live in one that we all operate by, and here we are screaming for justice. And we're never going to get it. So stop screaming about it. It's a blackmail tape, and it's being used as such. It's never going to come out until they're dead. Till they're dead. We have been screaming about the JFK stuff. We've been screaming about the RFK stuff. We've been screaming about cloud seeding. None of that stuff comes out, even though cloud seeding is a little bit easier to find. Been screaming about everything. Maybe I should get some sleep. What else we got going on? Got the Epstein list. You got... You want to know? Here's a theory I got. Right here. Well, how come every time I hit Control-2, it goes to another tab? It's the weirdest thing. Control-2. And it goes to the tab. I don't understand. I don't like that at all. Listen to DeSantis here talk about political parties.
Final thing I'll say is, I've been getting asked about this idea of this Elon Musk political party, and I just want to say, I think Elon Musk has been, one of the most innovative entrepreneurs, not just in our country's history, but probably in world history. And I think he's done a lot. I think he's got a lot more left in the tank, obviously. I appreciated his efforts in the 2024 election. And I've been a big supporter of the idea of the Doge because the federal government's spending way too much money. We've adopted that in Florida, even though we have a budget surplus and are paying down debt, and we have the second lowest spending per capita of all 50 states. But yet we're still doing it in Florida because you
Listen to this.
always run saying there's out of control spending and they're going to spend less, and they never do it.
Back to what we were
and
talking
so there's
about.
a gap between the campaign rhetoric and then the performance.
Man, he's a good
Elon was
governor,
doing
though.
Doge, and a lot of Congress didn't want anything to do with actually adopting the Doge cuts. Just like they haven't wanted to adopt the Trump executive orders on immigration and all these other things, which I think you have to adopt in law if you want them to have staying power. So I think there is a lot of frustration with the gap between the rhetoric in their district and the performance once they get into D.C. But the way you do that is expose that in a primary.
Expose it in a primary, put limits on it, and punish them, right? Punish them for overspending. You cannot stop the debt train. You cannot stop the debt train. You can only slow it down. We have to go after the Federal Reserve. This is my tip to everybody. We must go after the Federal Reserve. That'll do it for today. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble. Join me tomorrow. We will break down what Trump said in the cabinet meeting, which is still currently going on. That means he said a lot of things. a lot of things. And we'll look at it compared to everything that we've said today. Thanks for joining. Have a wonderful Tuesday, everybody.